A case of animal neglect means one woman is facing possible penalties. A horse was taken from its owner after several reports of animal neglect.
Channel 5's Carolina Cruz spoke with a veterinarian about the signs to look for in these types of cases. She's in our studio with more.
This is the scene that a driver saw and then filed a report with the Hidalgo County Sheriff's Department. After a while, deputies believed it merited a case, so they started legal proceedings. It wasn't the first or second, but third call that led deputies to say enough.
I don't know if it was weeks or months, but as you can tell, the horse is pretty skinny.
A case of animal neglect in the city of Elsa. These cases and evidence typically don't wind up in Judge Jason Peña's office.
This is the first one, yeah.
Steps are in place to ensure a claim of animal neglect is processed before the owner faces charges. This is because sometimes it's not neglect.
You have to ask, well, is this because it's not getting enough food? Does it possibly have a medical condition that its family is treating it for and it's just kind of in the healing process? Is it an older animal that's just not able to keep up the normal body condition?
Some cases like this one, it merits law enforcement's attention. 3 strikes and the horse is taken from its owner. Dr. Nikki Lejeune says it's difficult for older horses to maintain a healthy weight. An owner needs to make sure they can provide sufficient food and supplements to prevent the animal from dropping weight. Otherwise, they could end up standing in front of a judge. There are signs that indicate neglect from food. Take a look at these side-by-side pictures. To the left, an animal neglect case. See this horse's bony hips. Look at this outline of her ribs. They are clearly visible. To the right, a picture of a well-fed horse, full and healthy. In cases of house pets, these are signs that you can look for.
There are certain rights that animals have. They have a right to shelter, they have a right to food and water. If you're driving down the street and you see a dog tied to a tree and there's no shelter in sight, no water in sight, that would be considered animal neglect.
Dr. Lejeune says it's necessary to differentiate between neglect and abuse when making a report. She says it's a matter of intention versus lack of care. She and Judge Peña agree.
It's not just an animal, it's a life. And from a dog to a horse to a human, we're all, somebody needs to look out for the animals that can't speak.
Whether it's abuse or neglect, they want you to keep an eye out and report it. In the Elsa animal neglect case, the owner has 2 weeks to provide proof they've purchased 90 days worth of food and at least 1 transaction of a veterinarian visit with the animal. Once the receipts are handed to the judge, he'll revisit the case and review the charges. Reporting live in the studio, Carolina Cruz, Channel 5 News at 6.
And here's what happens once a report is filed with law enforcement. This is Channel 5 News Extra. A police officer or sheriff's deputy will pay the pet owner a visit. If the case looks like neglect, they'll investigate further. Then they'll follow up with the owner and may issue a citation if the case merits one. But it doesn't end there. Law enforcement will go back to the home to check on the status of the animal. If it hasn't improved, they'll remove the animal or charge the owner. This is when the case ends up in court.